Hi everyone, this is Lavanya Nalli from Nalli Silk Sarees, and today we're going to be in conversation with 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝗀𝗃. Get started. I am very honored and happy to be here in conversation with 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝗀𝗃, and she's authored the book A Journey with Khadi. It's a touch and feel experiential book, and it details the story of Khadi and its historical significance in India and overall in our collective consciousness. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝗀𝗃 is in the field of textile design and conservation, and she's been in this space for about 2 decades now. She's a visiting fellow at Victoria and Albert, London, and she is a Fulbright scholar. She's worked with many different organizations over the years. She does quite a lot of work with the 𝗟𝘃𝘀𝗀𝗏 Foundation in Chennai, and her prime focus at that time was exploration with natural dyes and creating designs. So with that very small summary of a very exhaustive list of accomplishments, I'm going to turn it over to 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝗀𝗏. 𝗕𝗲𝘀, I would love to hear more about you. What prompted you to get into this field of textile design and conservation? Where did that passion and that interest come from?
I always wanted to become a painter, artist, painter. And that's how I got into the College of Arts and Crafts subject. And I joined there and in first 2 years, we have to do all the 5 subjects. That is painting, textile, visual communication, sculpture and ceramic. And only in the 3rd year, they will allot you a group. So for me, first 2 years, we did everything. And the 3rd year, they told me right royally, 𝗕𝗲𝘀, you don't have enough marks. You don't qualify to become an artist. So, textile design is a group that we have given you. So, and I think that was the very first thing. Then later, I didn't want to become a textile designer at all. And even if you ask me as a textile designer now, I think I'm more happy with the lines and stripes and checks than any, elaborate designs. Anyway, I think
It's interesting that you said that your teacher said that I don't think you should do art and you should do textile design. That's really quite, it's almost the opposite of what I tell, when we go and we look for young designers to work with us to say, look, textile design is probably one of the more complex forms of art expression, because you have to work within the constraints of the loom, and you need to know how your design from paper is going to translate, within the technical constraints and guardrails that a loom has. So, but just a point on the side, but it's quite interesting hearing you and how you've sort of been guided early on in your career.
I think that is probably the ignorance of, at that time, it was not much of awareness. Probably when I was studying, like you said, the complexity of designing. We designed just like that. We could, the strength of College of Arts and Crafts students is that they can design. I think it's there in their blood. For me, yes. Somehow I was fascinated. Not somehow, it was always there. Painting was my passion, but now I don't paint anymore. But textile design, I think it's a whole lot of different avenue for me. Like I said, no, my teachers play a major role, and Mr. Alfonso, he's no more, and a very famous artist. And he was a principal then, and he said, because he sees always, he'll see me outside the class. And one day he called and he said, why are you outside the class? I said, who wants to sit and do textile design? I want to become an artist. So you're a big artist, so I want to become one. He said, okay, I don't know how good you're an artist, so come paint. I said, give me material. I don't have money and everything. So he gave me a canvas, some oil colors, and I did, and I brought it to him. He said, wonderful, you have such amazing color combination, and you have an eye for using the right color, and the strokes are very good. See, you are already an artist now. Good, high time, go sit in the class and become a textile designer. So that's how he motivated. Yes, it.
So let's jump straight into it. Tell me about the book, A Journey with Khadi, and the reason we're here today.
The book itself is about a journey, literally. Like I see myself, okay, say if an artist is presenting his painting, basically it's a thought process, whatever he reflects it on the canvas. So this book is also typically my personal journey, what all I explored, in this journey, that's exactly I have given there. Even be it a little bit of story, be it a little bit of technical aspect I have learned. Typically, it started in the year 2005. All our life, I'm sure everybody would have heard that word Khadi, Khadi, Khadi. But, it's hearing. But when do you listen? That's what matters. So I literally listened to the word Khadi when it came out of Matan Singh, Mr. Mapu. When he said, Bessie, I went for my 𝗕𝗲𝗀𝗶𝗶 research to him. I was having a conversation in his house, and suddenly, out of nowhere, he just said, Bessie, where is the place they use the fish jawbone? I said, I don't know. He said, do you have the book Khadi? I said, no. So he went and he got it from his library. He gave me a book, Khadi. Okay. This is exactly what is reflected in my book also. Until I took up my journey for Weaving India, the book Weaving India, which is about hand-woven textiles across the country. And I thought even Khadi has to, I have to talk about Khadi because that is the fabric of the countries. Then I opened the book Khadi. Then the word Khadi really came back to me. Then when I opened the book and I was trying to understand, I think it was a whole new journey that I began. And I became very upset after, visiting Ponduru and seeing certain things. One, why I was upset because, sometimes you think you know something and actually you don't know anything. That puts you off. And the next thing is, how are we going to face the reality, knowing certain things, How are you going to contribute to the whole thing, the heritage or the history? What is my place there? And yes, and that is when I really I got this opportunity in Kalakshetra. I went in there and it took me through the journey of Khadi, continued there also. And creating a collection at the Kalakshetra and a little bit of, like I mentioned, the technical aspect with the swatches is presented.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about about Khadi itself. Now you've said it's different from other types of fabric that's produced. What makes it different? What is it that allows someone to call a particular sari or fabric or garment as Khadi? Why is it different from any other fabric? Not just the historical significance, but the fabric itself.
Actually, very interesting question. Yes, everybody knows it's the fabric of freedom. For centuries together, India has been hand spinning Khadi and weaving clothes. The original Khadi or Gandhiji's Khadi, what he took as a weapon to, fight. Weapon is a strong word for Gandhiji, but then, a miracle wand to convert, make the freedom movement or national movement go ahead. It was the spinning, hand spinning and hand weaving. When I say hand spinning, it is a process. Khadi is not just a fabric, it is a process. Yesterday when I was there in a conference and somebody said, why do people have to think Khadi as a textile? No, it is a process, which is very true. Because historically when we go back, the cotton grows in your backyard. You pluck the cotton. Probably the men go to the farm and the women, they do the ginning, removing the seed, they spin the yarn. And in a leisure time, they prepare the warp and whatever. And probably during monsoon, when it is raining heavily, they sit at home and they weave. So the whole process was community, from backyard, from the farm to the fabric. There's no carbon footprint, that all these latest terms were never there. It is a freedom fabric in many aspects. What the other fabrics are, even today's Khadi, I would categorize Khadi itself into two. One is the original Khadi, where everything is hand spun and hand woven. Like I said, hand spun, it's a process itself. It's not that easy. It's not just like what I'm saying, spinning, hand spinning. No, it is a process of many people being involved in it and patiently doing the work. But today everything is mill made. You have the genetically modified cotton which goes into the mill. It gets processed. You get the fine whatever uh, cotton and mercerized cotton, you name it, it's all there with fancy names, and the fabric comes out of it. So this is basically, and this is hand woven. 99% it is the mill-made yarn that we weave, not the yarn that was historically, or the khadi yarn. And today's khadi is also 99% mill processed. Only 1% is hand cranked, semi-mechanized. So that also have to be addressed. Yeah, so that also I have spoken in this book.
Got it. That's wonderful to hear. So what I'm hearing you say, Khadi is, it's not a fabric, it's a process. And it's a way in which our communities historically came together in aid of some value-added work, right? And some productive work, and a productive way for the entire community to engage and be part of societal progress, right? Where the women had historically would do certain parts of the value-added activity, the men would do certain other things. It was also very connected with the soil and the climate. And then, like you said, during the weather wasn't that good, or if it was monsoon season, and so certain other aspects of it couldn't be done. Once the cotton picking and the hand spinning has been done, then the weaving process would begin. So it really is a very holistic process, and that is true Khadi, and that is the significance of it. That's wonderful to hear, and I'd never thought about it that way, that it's not a fabric, it's a process. It's a way for us as a community to come together, engage with each other, and in a communal sense, to add to the progress of our country. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for giving us such a beautiful insight. And for our viewers, you will hear this and much more of this in Bessie's upcoming book. I know that we're almost up on time, but I want to ask you, you spoke about Weaving India. Tell me a little, I know what this is, and I'm quite excited, but I would like to enlighten our viewers. What is this project, this ambitious project that you're working on? And why is it so important that we have a body of work like this in India?
Okay, Weaving India, it's a very passionate project which I started. I never knew what I was getting into. It was in the year 2011 when I was doing my postdoctoral fellowship in Singapore. The whole idea there, I was there to study or research on the textiles that were traded from Coromandel Coast to Southeast Asia. The planning was for an exhibition and a publication. So we need to see the collection, and I was there with the Asian Civilizations Museum. We were viewing, there were two major collections. One was the Coromandel collection, one was the Gujarat Patola collection. So when they were, we were viewing one after the other, and the patolas were unrolled, like the whole, probably straight from the loom, it was traded there, and it was like that. When they unrolled, there was a strip, you have the loose wart to demarcate the next sari. You ought to tie that knot for the sari pallu. So that loose wart there, it wasn't cut or anything. So they were telling, it's a mistake and some damage. I said, no, it's not a damage. That is how we weave, that is how to, just to mark that that's the end of one and beginning of the next. Oh, immediately they corrected in the register. It was all done. So after that, I came back to India, and I was actually reflecting on my, the things that happened back there. And I realized how much do we know about hand-woven textiles. I don't know much. So how do you expect others to know when, I'm a textile designer, I've studied so much, and at least I have a degree in textile design and worked with textiles, and I do not know much. So how do we expect others to know? And if I don't do the work of, understanding in a research point of angle, I don't think so. You can't expect others to do it. I have to take up the response. I thought it was my duty to do it. It was a kind of a calling. And apparently it was the right time. I was at the right time, at the right place. I was there at Intact New Delhi. They said, Bessie, we have come up with a new project. I mean, it's a research thing we have started. Would you like to apply? I applied. I was the very first one who got applied, and that led to the book Weaving India. So basically, we all know textiles by the name Kanjivaram or Banaras or Arani or Paitani. So what is the weave that really goes into it matters. See, for us, we will have better understanding. But what about if we see the global market, what is it you're giving? A name of the place? No, the understanding is not going to be there. You have to say the technical aspect of it, because we have to be proud, because there are certain things we still do in handloom. We still have handloom. We have to be very proud of it. And what we are weaving, the techniques of weave that we weave in the loom is amazing, and that has to be said. The place is important. Yes, it has it is, the place itself is an identity to the textile, but the technical aspect has to come into play if we have to have a global reach. So that is when I started, categorizing. It was a journey. I thought maybe I should introduce the weaves and the traditions that come under it. Basically, I started with 10 swatches, and my whole idea all my life, not now, 2005 when I did a project itself on lesser known textiles of Tamil Nadu, particularly to Rasipuram and Kanjipuram, I incorporated the swatches. Because for me, a person who's having disability, learning disability, my understanding is way, way, way better when I see the textile. In hand-on textiles, the reverse of the fabric speaks volume, and it is very, very important. So I felt this Weaving India, it's not about having a high resolution photograph and talking about the technique, but instead we will have a small swatch and say, okay, if it is interlock, for example, I have given various example of cotton by cotton. I have given Moirangsi. Cotton by silk, I have given Gadwal and Rasipuram, then I took it off. Then I thought silk by silk is Kanjivaram. Then the Paitani has multiple, say Kanjivaram, if it is 3 shuttle, if Paitani is multiple shuttle. And shuttle meaning pern, whatever, you can use it. And if you see Kani, in Kashmir, the ground construction itself is twill and not plain, and multiple, these are the technical things. I thought it's beautiful to be. The Weaving India is all about that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And just to summarize what you said and to add to it, Bessie is very modest. I think what she's talking about with this book, which has been her passion project for more than 10 years now. And it's so true. When I joined and I entered the field, though I've come from a business family and a weaving family, and have been in this, part of our family goes back 100 years. There is this knowledge in India of what our weaves are, what our designs are. That tradition is passed on generationally. So in India, we have a knowledge, especially in, so I'll just take the weaving community because that's the one I'm familiar with. It passes on from father to son. It passes on from parent to child. And so the training and the knowledge is an apprenticeship-based knowledge. And at the same time now, for the last few years, there's a lot of chatter about there's more and more people who are no longer joining or who are no longer remaining in the weaving communities or in the weaving trade, and they're choosing to get opportunities abroad. And I think it's partly because, I won't get into the reasons of it, but I will get into the outcome of that. When that happens, as we start seeing more and more young people moving out of it, without saying whether that's good or bad, I'm a proponent of, I'm a proponent of any progress is good progress. But when this happens to an ecosystem that historically has codified information in an intuitive manner, there is tribal knowledge, there is community knowledge, it is passed on generationally through apprenticeship. once, as people start moving out of that profession, the knowledge also leaves. And in fact, Bessie and I were talking about this when I first heard her story and her project. I was so impressed, and I said, "That's amazing. Where can I find, information like that today?" And she said, "That you will barely find it today. You will find high resolution pictures. You may find some very technical documentation, but this level of work, this ambition of vision to say all of the weaves of India, all the major weaves, if we wanted to codify that and if we wanted to document that knowledge, archive it in a way where tomorrow's textile designers, tomorrow's designers, anybody who wants to come back into that field should be able to say, I would like to revive something. It's part of our cultural heritage. It's part of our historical heritage. I take pride in it and I want to revive it. They should at least have a place to start, right? Not just looking at the pictures and appreciating it, but to say, if I wanted to redo this today, what goes behind it? How do I do it? How do I set up the loom? Where does what kind of a loom? And how is this woven from a technical standpoint? So that's the project, and that's Weaving India. And so I think it's in the works. And my understanding is you've done this for about 60 different categories, many of which I don't think has even been woven in years. And you were telling me that some of the artisans, they don't have that knowledge anymore because their grandparents or great-grandparents used to weave it. And then, of course, because it's so complex to do it, they didn't know how to do it anymore, and no one has written this anywhere. And so you have to almost innovate with them as a form of R&D to re-innovate and then to rediscover the process by which we used to have these products done in our country. So that's why I'm so excited about this project, both the Khadi book, which is coming out, and looks like it's a precursor for this much larger body of work that Bessie's got coming out. So everybody who's watching this, and I think there's a lot of comments also in which I'm seeing here saying, the younger generation doesn't wear it, or we don't go into a lot of weaving families are not really continuing the trade. I think this is a beautiful step in that direction. It's not a passive step. It's not archiving. It's not documenting. It's going back to your story about, the Khadi is a process. I think Weaving India is a process. Weaving India is a way for us to keep this live, to keep the tradition alive, thriving, and it's there for all future generations, not just to appreciate, but to revive it and to draw from. So thank you so much, Becky, and thank you everyone who's watched us. It's been lovely having this conversation with you. We will be doing more of these lives going forward with folks from very different parts of the design community. And we started out with Bessie, but I'm pretty sure that this is not going to be the last that we will see of her. So thank you very much to everyone, and thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lavanya. Thank you.